Hello and welcome to the special podcast series which takes a look at cybersecurity during the time of the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm Peter Ballant from Technicon, and throughout this three-part series, we will be speaking with partners from the SPARTA project. In the past, we have devoted several podcast episodes to SPARTA, and if you recall, this project will improve the way cybersecurity is implemented in the EU. From training and education to engaging the development community, SPARTA is committed to implementing lasting changes. Even though cybersecurity and pandemics are not directly related, there are always lessons learned when something has global consequences. Shutdown, loss of commerce, and public fear are just a few of the effects both a pandemic and a large-scale cyber attack could have. In this series, we will look at the intersection of these two vulnerable sectors of our society and what is being done on the cybersecurity side to keep things running safely and securely. Today, we speak with SPARTA coordinator Florent Kuchnar. Welcome, Florent, and tell us, what was the first thing to go through your head when you heard we were in pandemic mode?
Well, the first thing is you intuitively go back to, what does that mean to you? You've seen pandemics in movies. We've been fortunate enough, and we're working with a generation of people who have been fortunate enough that pandemic, at least in the Western world, is something that we hadn't experienced in a while. And most that we got was the flu pandemic, which was very much described as under control. We've heard the scares from Ebola, we've heard the scares from SARS, but these never reached our shores, fortunately, before. So both a question of some kind of disbelief, is this, the same thing as SARS and Ebola? This is going to be terrible for part of the world, but this is probably not going to concern us. And at the same time, as things grew closer, we get to experience with things that previous generations experienced on a regular basis, but we were fortunate enough not to have to experience already. So discovering this and trying to understand how we react as individuals, as groups, and as projects, it was something that was challenging, to say the least. The initial feedback was, okay, how do we do this, and how do we make sure that everything is safe and secure, everyone is safe and secure, and that the missions that we've been undertaking as part of SPARTA in particular remain doable while maintaining the health and safety of everyone. So that was the initial thoughts when we got into the pandemic at first. Of course, the second, and we'll get back to this in a minute, but the second issue and the second thing that came to mind was, okay, how does that affect cybersecurity, and is there something that we should undertake in the coming weeks, more specifically as part of SPARTA? What is our role, and how, independently of the missions that were drawn initially at launch time, how do we adapt those missions, and how do we contribute to the overall effort?
What was that process like, to have to figure out what your role is in this situation? Was this a grueling task, or did this come naturally? You're absolutely right in that we've never experienced anything like this before. So how would you rate your response to this pandemic that's upon us?
I think to be honest, I think it's a bit early to rate already. I can tell you how we try to reason about this, and our main issue here was that we were torn between two things. The first one is, we know that this pandemic has impacts, and wide-ranging impacts, on the security of digital systems, and the reason for this, we can go into a bit more details in a minute. But we knew that there was something at stake here. The second side of the equation, and the problem we were facing, is we were wondering, where was our place? And you try to also understand that you're part of a greater system, and that running around flailing your arms and trying to be helpful everywhere can at sometimes be counterproductive. So what we got is we reached out to a number of stakeholders, making sure that they knew that we were available for help. We also made sure that we checked in with the project members inside Sparta to make sure everyone was all right, and then brainstormed a few ideas with the people who were interested about how we could ramp up the involvement of Sparta on a few selected topics.
Okay.
But again, trying to proceed with modesty, but with the will to be helpful where we can.
And we've sort of been talking about this intersection of cybersecurity and pandemic, where these two things overlap or what they have in common. What can you say about this?
Well, we were talking a bit about this before the recording started, Peter. The idea that the pandemic is changing everything also applies not only to social relationships, but also to how we interact with the world in general. So not only with our peers, not only through work, not only to our friends and family, but also with how we work every day, with how we shop for groceries, with how we build interactions with our neighbors. And so, and the way that it's changed this is because of confinement, because the pandemic is forcing us to separate and to isolate. We have no choice but to rely on digital communication to enable those types of activities, whether there are communication activities and exchanges, and you've seen the rise of a number of conferencing services, video conferencing services happen because of this. But also all of the gestures that we're performing every day as part of our personal life or as part of our professional lives now need to happen in a space where the digital space is the main area of locality. So a few examples: when we work on developing solutions and developing code, and this is a large part of the work in Sparta and work of computer science labs as the one that I work in, these gestures now need to happen in cyberspace. They need this work needs to happen in cyberspace. So fortunately, because of the nature of computer science and software development, a few tools were already available to us, but we were very much forced to complement those tools with additional means to do the work that we were doing face to face, but do it in a remote fashion. Triaging bugs, making sure that we can review code together. We activated a number of the features that were latent or inexistent in some of the tools that we were using because we needed to enable those discussions and that work to be performed on cyberspace. The second aspect of this, and this is something where I'm still a bit worried about, is we need to have a place where we can have discussions. A bit similar to what happens at the water cooler in the real office space when we can meet. And this space with discussion is something that is, especially in projects such as Sparta, when you need to maintain a high level of creativity. These spaces are absolutely key to enabling that level of creativity. You cannot just brainstorm by email. And we're still figuring out whether we can brainstorm with the additional tools that we've created and that we've been relying on over the course of the pandemic. So, yeah, both the core tools of our crafts needed to evolve, but also, and perhaps most surprisingly at first, the tools that support the informal interactions and everything that makes the salient aspects of research and innovation actions as the ones that we're undertaking as part of it.
That was part of my conversation with Florent Kushner. Tune in next time when we continue our discussion about lessons learned during the pandemic and why hackers may see these uncertain times as opportunity to do what they do best. For more information about the SPARTA project, go to sparta.eu. This podcast has been brought to you by Technicon. The SPARTA project has received funding from the European Union's Horizon 2020 Research and Innovation Program under Grant Agreement 830892.